Yes. Now we shall welcome Dr. Srinivasan ji for delivering his talk. He has a very beautiful topic, Sankhya uh, philosophy, Sankhya Darshana and Patanjali Yoga. He is a regular member of our family, so I think he needs no introduction. He is very much committed to philosophical discussion, and he is a regular participant, and he always asks pertinent questions and gives his observation, remarks, criticisms, um, whatever he um, thinks to be right. Thank you, sir, and we solicit your benign presence with us. Now, over to you for your beautiful presentation, sir. Srinivasan ji.
Thank you. Hari Om, Pranams, Namaste to all professors, intellectuals, and the, the, the rich scholars who are interested in this philosophy. I was just telling a minute back that I was deeply interested in Guru Nanak philosophy earlier. I was attracted by his beautiful poems and doctrines. And due to paucity of time, I could not proceed further on this. And then I switched over to Vedanta because this is the sannyasasrama dharma for me. It's from Vanaprastha that I have come to sannyasasrama dharma, wherein I have to focus my own existence, the purpose of it, and why and where and how am I going to reach. That is aptly described in the Upanishads as well as Brahma Sutra and Upadesa Shakashri of Sri Adi Shankaracharya. I am deeply involved in this Sankhya philosophy. Number one, because I have done an extensive research on Patanjali Yoga Sutra, where Sankhya philosophy is intertwined with Yoga Sutra. So whenever I used to refer certain principles, immediately I was only referring Sankhya philosophy and Srimad Bhagavad Gita. This is one such a fine experience in my life that I am totally focusing now on yoga philosophy, Patanjali yoga philosophy, and Sankhya philosophy. Because Patanjali is the one who got me the research degree. So I cannot forget that day in which I just prepared is 196 aphorisms with the 4 chapters, starting with Samadhipada and ending with Kaivalyapada. So Sankhya philosophy induced me to research more. And that is the reason why I started focusing on Sankhya philosophy. And aptly our admin Pramod has given me a topic on Sankhya philosophy. The previous exposure, I was just talking on Patanjali Yoga Sutra and social harmony, and then on the Karma Yoga, and then the status of the philosophy in the Indian universities. That was my last talk about 3 or 4 months back. Now I have been assigned a very difficult task of explaining this Sankhya philosophy. Before entering into that Sankhya philosophy, I would like to say a few words about the founder. Kapila is called, or rather Kapila Maharshi is called as Kapila Kardama, a very ancient sage. He was the 10th child of sage Kardama. He belongs to 6th century BCE. He is one of the descendants of Saptarishis by name Pulaha. And he was the world's first empiricist. And in fact, he was the world's first atheist thinker also. He was also world's first reformer. He was a patron rishi of rebels. He established the dualistic philosophy as a counter to the Advaita philosophy of monism. Otherwise, we know that Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva na Apara. Nothing but Brahman. But he proved, Kapila Maharishi, by various means, arguments, objections, and prevailed upon his disciples to speak about, to expand about Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya philosophy, philosopher Sri Kapila Maharishi had 24 disciples, of which Kapila, Asuri, Panchashika, Vindhyavasa, Varsaganya, Jaggisabhya, and Ishwara Krishna are worth mentioning, because Ishwara Krishna was instrumental for developing Sankhya philosophy through Sankhya Karika, Tattva Kaumudi, Tattva Samasa, etc. The previous Sankhya Sutras were not available to us for unknown reasons. It has been either burnt deliberately by the... I don't want to get into that kind of conundrum. I would say that these are not available presently. It was destroyed. He declared that sensory perception, which is empiricism and observation, were the primary source of knowledge, which every Indian philosopher after him accepted it. John Locke, George Berkeley, and Western philosophers, and David Hume, the 17th and 18th century philosophers, also adored about this philosophy. The first guru of Gautama Buddha was a Sankhya philosopher. He was called as Alara Kalama. The capital of the Sankhyas was Kapilavastu. Lord Sri Krishna, an admirer of Kapila Maharishi, said in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 10, 26th sloka, an important sloka about Kapila Maharishi. He says, Asvataha sarva vrichanam devarshinam chanaradaha gandharvanam chitraradaha siddhanam kavilo munihi. That means among the trees, among the trees, I would like to have this Ashwatha tree. And among the Devas, Narada was his best admirer. Among the Gandharvas, it was only Chitrarada. But among the sages, Sri Krishna says, it's only Kapilo Munihi. So from this, we can understand how much of importance that Lord Sri Krishna has given for Sankhya philosopher as well as his philosophy. So in Rig Veda also, chapter 10, 27th, 10th canto, 27th chapter, 16th sloka, mentions about Kapila Maharishi, Dasanam Ekam Kapilaha. In Satapitaka series of the Shakas of the Ajurveda, wherein it is mentioned as Kapila Saka. In Aitreya Brahmana, 7th chapter, 17th sloka, the term Kapilaya, meaning the clans of Sankhya or clans of the Sankhyas, Kapila occurs. Kapila is an incarnation of Lord Vishnu. Believe it or not, this has been established. This is mentioned in Puranas like Vishnu Purana, Bhagavata Purana, Brahmanda Purana, Padma Purana, Skanda Purana, Narada Purana, and everywhere you will find Kapila Maharishi. Kapila's works were 14 scriptures he has written. Manvadi Shraddha, mentioned in Paga Yajna Prakasha. Drishtantra Yoga, known as Siddhanta Shastra, available in Madras Oriental Manuscripts Library. Kapila Purana, wherein Al-Biruni has extensively prized his works, and the same is available at Saraswati Bhavan Library in Varanasi. Kapila Samhita is also there. Kapila Sutra, a Sankhya Pravachana, and Tattva Samasa Sutra were all lost. Kapila Sutra in Bhagavata Purana, chapter 25 to 33, third canto, are all called Kapila. Kapila Smriti is also available in Guru Nandana publications, Guru Manda publications. Ananda Asrama lists at page number 4067 about Kapila Upanishad. Kapila Gita, known as Siddhanta Sara, is also available, found in Samskara Mayiki, and Ayurveda books also mentions about Kapila's views. These are the, introductory part as far as Kapila Maharishi is concerned. The four cardinal principles of Sankhya are the fourfold divisions or categories. One is productive, the other one is productive and produced, the third one is produced, and the fourth one is neither productive nor produced. This includes the 24 evolutionary principles of Sankhya philosophy also. Sir, am I audible, sir? Hello? Okay. The root product is Prakriti, being purely productive. The second variety are the other principles like Buddhi, Ahankar are productive and produced. Inasmuch as Buddhi evolves Ahankara and the rest. The purely non-productive but the produced principles are the 11 senses, Pancha Karmendriyas, Pancha Jnanendriyas, and mind, organs, and the 5 material substances, as Mrs. Anu Kanduri was describing about the 5 elements, Panchabhutas. The Purusha is material substances. The Purusha is neither productive nor produced. It has a nature of attachment with someone. It will cling to either the Prakriti or the Brahman. Once the Prakriti liberates the the self automatically goes to Brahmaloga. From there, it merges with the Brahman. This is the, ideology behind the most cardinal principles of Sankhya philosophy. And it is without attributes, Purusha. All the accessories that we see are the effects of the gunas, 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Regarding this, I will explain it later. And now I proceed with that presentation. And spirit, by its very nature, is totally free from all these clutches. Sankhya is a philosophical anthropology in that it views man as man, especially as a problem to himself. It is primarily a philosophy as it relates to man and his place in nature, exposure in nature. The Sankhya is both anthropocentric and anthropomorphic. Anthropocentric character of the Sankhya, his system can be clearly seen from the names of Puman, Purusha, and Pumsa. This is referred in Sankhya Karika also, meaning man. The aim of this philosophy is the goal of the man Purusharthas. The anthropomorphic is strongly marked in this system of philosophy. Purusha is man and Prakriti, a Nartaki, a dance use, is a woman. And this has been explained in Sankhya Karika also. I will come to that point later. Various principles. It is next to impossibility to explain about the Sankhya philosophy in a short session like this. It will take at least minimum of 1 week where Sankhya Pravachana can be held continuously for about a week. Then perhaps I may be in a position to say, speak about certain facts about Sankhya philosophy. And this is what is perplexing me, because it relates to the evolution theory. And then it speaks of the metaphysics of Sankhya philosophy. From there, it migrates to the ontology of Sankhya philosophy. From there, it goes to the epistemology of Sankhya philosophy. And then finally, it lands up on the philosophy of soteriology. Soteriology is attainment of divinity through awakened position or liberation. This is soteriology. So these are all very important points. Apart from this, we have the Triguna theory, we have the Karma theory, and we have this Pramana theories, and so on. And teleology is the most important thing. It's so on and so forth. All these 26 chapters very clearly describes about the position of Sankhya in the present Vedantic system. Unfortunately, he happened to be an atheist. The erstwhile, or rather yesteryear's Brahmanas, they rejected the dualism concept, and they adopted the Vedic monism of Sri Adi Shankara. There is a lot of argument behind that. I will discuss with that. Before I conclude that, I will highlight all the important points and the arguments and the counter-arguments and other objections. So the present day's speech is going to be oriented towards teleology in Sankhya philosophy. What is teleology? It's immanent in the cosmos, is the raison d'etre of evolution. Therefore, evolution is purposive. If you say that it is a Satkaryavada or the cause and effect theory, then there must be a reason or a purpose to it. What is that purpose? Is fully discussed, and the truth is revealed in teleology of Sankhya. And this is revealed, we may briefly, mention that the Sankhya's, just as the Aristotle's immanent teleology. The concept of teleology found in the philosophies of Anaxagoras belonging to 5th century, and Aristotle deserves our attention here. It was he, Anaxagoras, who first introduced the idea of teleology in Greek philosophy. But fortunately, how it merges with the teleology of Sankhya philosophy is a great question. I really wonder the imagination of Sankhya philosophers, Kapila Maharishi, in discussing about that very clearly, exhaustively in Sankhya Karika. His chief disciple, Sri Ishwara Krishna, has written about 70 poems or stotras or sutras, wherein he has mentioned logically about this teleology of Sankhya Karika in verse 17, 57, 58, and 59. And I am going to focus, the presenter is going to focus only on the teleology of Sankhya philosophy and not anything otherwise other than that, because of the paucity of time, and it must be an exhaustive presentation relating to other philosophies, as I told earlier. So I am focusing only on the teleology of Sankhya philosophy, how it is involved. When Aristotle praised him very highly and contrasting him with the mechanists like Leucippus and Democritus, says that the Anaxagoras is a sober man among vain babblers. The Plato's idea of good as a source of knowledge and knowability found in the public page number 505, clearly shows that his philosophy is out and out teleological. From this, we can conclude that how the teleology is interpreted uh, by various philosophers in Western philosophy, and also the present day contemporary philosophers have compared the teleology with the Sankhya Karika philosophy. And this is what I am much interested in, these three, slogas, which are really good and worth explaining, worth delving on that. I will go with that, the verse number 57. Before that, I would like to present the first objection raised by the Advaitis. It is said that the evolution is brought about because Sankhya projects Pradhana as the primary source of evolution. But Vedantis, like Advaita Vedanta philosophy of Sri Adi Shankara and Brahma Sutra, they stoutly protested and objected that it was not Pradhana, but it is only the power of Brahman, which is to be discussed in course of our, this speech, and which was refuted by dualism. There is a war between dualism and monism. So this takes on to that platform wherein we will discuss about the pros and cons of the Sankhya philosophy, and then compare with that of Brahma Sutra Bhashya or Sri Adi Shankara Bhashya of Upadesha Sahasri, wherein he has very clearly mentioned about the monism aspect of it. So let us stick on to that, the Sankhya philosophy of dualism, wherein he sees that the objection raised by the Advaitis that the evolution is brought about by Prakriti. Then Prakriti being eternally active, it will never cease from the act of creation. Thus, there will be creation at all times, and there will be no emancipation of the souls. What will happen to that? This is a question posed logically by the Advaitis, for which the Sankhya Karika, the Ishvara Krishna, has interpreted in a very lucid and very splendid manner, saying, Yatha pravrittihi ajnasya shirasya vatsya vivriddhi nimittam vimoksha nimittam. Yatha pravrittihi, like the flow of ajnasya shirasya, milk which is insentient, vatsya vivriddhi nimittam, is for the growth of the calf. The cow is milking not because of his own enrichment, but because of a purpose. The purpose is to survival for the calf. So it secretes milk. Likewise, tata pradhanasya pravrittihi, similar as the action of pradhana or the pravritti, purusha vimoksha nimittamam. Purusha vimochana nimittamam. For the sake of the Purusha, only for the release of the Purusha, the Pradhana is involved in this evolutionary process. It is seen that insentient also acts towards a purpose. Teleology is dealing with the purpose of a cause. It involves the causal theory or the cause and effect of the Satkaryavada, which is objected as Asatkaryavada, and then it came the Parinamavada of Parinamavada, and then it switched over to Advaiti's Brahma Vivardhanavada, the cause and effect. It has been widely, purposefully described in these Karikas. It is seen that insentient also acts towards a purpose in the form of flowing for the nourishment of the calf, and this is teleology. In a similar way, the Prakriti, though insentient, but it is protective, is engaged in action for the purpose of bringing emancipation to the Purusha. It cannot, however, be maintained that the secretion of milk takes place under the supervision of God. It is only the cause and effect theory which makes the cow to eat a lot of grasses and then become pregnant and delivers a calf, and then the calf eats the milk. This is how it is clear that this creation cannot be due to the action of the sentient agent called the Brahman. This is stoutly opposed by the Sankhyas, because Lord is all full. Purnamadaga Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachade Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyade. When this Brahmanda is full, there is no question of its compassion, because compassion implies a desire to alleviate the pains. But prior to this creation, the spirits would not have had any bodies or organs and objects, and consequently, there is no pain and suffering, because Kapila Maharishi says that this life is full of sufferings. And if you want to get rid of the sufferings, only through Jnana Marg it is possible. That is why he wrote the Sankhya Sutra and Sankhya philosophy and Sankhya Karika of his disciples. The creation was an act of compassion on the part of the Ishvara. One would wish Ishvara to create only happy mortals and not being with variegated experiences. Prakriti, being unintelligent, has neither any selfish motive nor compassion to compel her to activity, since she exists only for the sake of Purusha. We can clearly understand that Prakriti is there only for the sake of Purusha. The above said incongruities do not arise in her case, so it is outrightly rejected by them. Since the activity of the Prakriti is directed only by her sole motive to bring about the fulfillment of another purpose. I underline the word another purpose. Is the teleology here. The instance of secretion of mother's milk is quite appropriate. This will explain about the teleology involved in Sankhya Karika. And the 58th sloka, I will tell first about the objection and then about the sloka and other aspect. Let the purpose or the release of Purusha be the motive action of the Prakriti. The Advaitis say, how does the cessation of the operations of Prakriti takes place? They are questioning. We are only producing. Then how does the cessation of the operations of Prakriti takes place, of the self? This is answered in 58th sloka of Sankhya Karika. Yatha lokaha outsukya anuvriddhyatham kriyalu pravartade tadavat avyaktam purushasya vimoksartham pravartade. Yatha loka, even as people outsukya anividhyatham kriyasu pravartade, gratifying their desires, engaged in such acts, tadavit, in a similar way, avyaktam, the unmanifest, purushasya vimokshartham, for emancipation of Purusha, pravarte acts. Even as the people engage in order to have the desires fulfilled, so also the unmanifest engages in activity for the emancipation of the spirit. By this analogy, it is explained that the unmanifest also energizes for the release of Purusha. So it is understood there is a dichotomy between the Prakriti and the unmanifest, because they argue, they underline the word unmanifest for the first time in Sankhya Karika. Sankhya admits, perhaps at a later period, the importance of Vedanta, and that is how from the heterodox to the orthodox philosophy, Sankhya was shifted. So the third answer, the question is about the, excuse me for a minute. just as a dance. Yada nartaki rangasya dasyatra nritya nivartate tada purushasya atmanam prakashya vinivartate. Yada nartaki, just as a dancer ceases to dance after being exhibited herself to the spectators, so also Prakriti ceases to operate after having exhibited herself to Purusha. This is how the counter argument goes in Sankhya Karika. I have explained about the 57th, the 58th, and the 59 slokas. There are a lot of innumerable number of slokas that deals with the teleology, but it is pretty difficult to explain all those things exhaustively. So I stick with that, and then teleology is implied in Sankhya Karika verses 17, 57, 58, 59, and 60. According to Brahma Sutra, by postulating Brahman as the ultimate cause at the universe, because Advaita Vedantis, they reject the idea of dualism, they reject the idea of Pradhana as the real reason for that, because Sankhya says Pradhana is mainly responsible because of his subtle particles which are promoting the evolution theory. This is objected by the Advaitis and say, postulating Brahman as the ultimate cause of the universe, the monism of Vedanta encountered great difficulties because they could not proceed further beyond that level, which the Sankhya dualism avoided by proposing the dualism of the ultimate causes of Purusha and Prakriti. So the Sankhya objections are, as far as now we have seen the objections raised by the Advaiti. But what are the objections raised by the Sankhya? If Brahman is one Sat, from the word Sachidananda, is one being Sat alone, without any distinction, how is the manifoldness of the universe possible? This is one question posed by the Sankhya's. And secondly, Sat Chit Ananda, the Chit. If Brahman is pure consciousness, Chit, and if Satkaryavada is to be assumed, how can it create this material world? This is the second point. And the third point is bliss, absolute bliss, which is Ananda. If Brahman is bliss, Ananda, why did it create this materialistic world with the full of sufferings of the Purusha? It is not possessed of the faults of the unfairness and lack of compassion. Vaisamya Naighanya, Brahma Sutra refute all these things crudely and naively and silencing the opposition of the Sankhya philosophers. But it did not deter them from arguing further. So in this instant, Sri Adi Shankara plays a major role in defining the Brahma Sutra through his Brahma Sutra Bhashya as well as in Upadesha Shakashri. In order to solve them, introduces into the Vedanta system a new principle called unevolved name and form. Abhyakrite Nama Rupaka. This is available in Chandogya Upanishad, which says the same thing. So the unevolved name, from which is the seed of the world, Jagat Bija Bhutaha. That is what the Adi Shankara says. Sankhya, everything is material. Similarly, for Shankara, everything is material, evolves from the unevolved name and form. That is how he interprets the evolution theory of Brahma Sutra, which according to Upadesha Shakashri, second canto, first chapter, 18 to 22 sloka, itself is first evolved. Everything is evolved only from Brahman is aptly proved by Sri Adi Shankara. But let us not get into that the logic and illogical theories of Advaita and Samkhya philosophy, because I'm sticking on only to the teleology of the Samkhya Karika. On the authority of Taittiriya Upanishad, Brahma Sutra simply maintains that ether, Akash, is the first of the five material elements of the Panchabhutas, arose only from Brahman, and ether arose from the very Atman. And this is what I just wanted to highlight in my presentation. And I hope this would have partly fulfilled your expectation about the Sankhya philosophy, which it contains about the metaphysics, the epistemology, the ontology, and then the soteriology, and the pramanas, and the karmas, and the trigunas, which is very exhaustive, and we have to delve deep into that. And I would request the admin and the authorities, moderators, to give another chance to explain one by one, so that it can be briefly described and spoken about it. And thank you very much for this nice opportunity. And I thank the admin, Dr. Pramod, and moderator Sri Om Narayan Rao, and the computer. I think Dr. Rana is absent today. Anyway, my respectful regards to all of them and all the other intellectuals, professors present here, who have listened to my talk very patiently. And I thank you, and Subhamastu. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your beautiful presentation on Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya Darshana gives a dualistic model of explanation of Jagat, explanation of the truth, and Vedanta gives the monistic model. So far as Vedanta is concerned, we have the ultimate wisdom, that is Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya. Jagat Mithya does not mean that Jagat is false. Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya means, from the ultimate standpoint, from the Paramarthika Satta, there is one reality. This is the highest wisdom. We shall discuss later. So now I shall invite Professor Hamidullah Maharaj ji. Sir, please have your observation, sir.
Thank you. I was just thank you very much for giving me opportunity. We had one course when I was doing my master's in Aligarh Muslim University. So we had one course on Indian philosophy, and those days we had studied about Sankhya philosophy. And after a long time, I was reminded about those lessons, and it was so lucid and it was so clear that Professor Krishnamurti has just given a very beautiful presentation about Sankhya philosophy, and juxtaposed it with the Vedanta philosophy and other philosophies, which are sometimes contrasting and sometimes unifying. But basically, this Sankhya philosophy is one of the very important ancient philosophies, and which has talked about Prakriti, Purush, and such other, and Sattvas and other things. Those days when these separations or these departures were not being known to the people. And as he mentioned that even about these philosophies, we find that Al-Biruni and other scholars have mentioned the greatness of these philosophies. So we need to revive these philosophies and make them contextualized to modern times, because we are being given sometimes the impression that as all the philosophies have emerged from the West, whereas we find that in the East, in the eastern part of the world, especially India, these great philosophies were there, which have influenced world philosophies and world thought. But much work has been not done in the comparative way to show the impact of these philosophies on the world thought and world philosophies. So we need to just make a comparative study of these philosophies with the Western philosophies also. For example, when we talk about Charvaka, for example, so we can just compare the Charvakas with the materialists of modern times, but there is a difference here and there, because the worldview has been very important. So their worldview was some difference of the worldview between these different types of philosophies. So Sankhya philosophy is also one of the very important philosophy, and especially the Sankhya epistemology is very important, and that has addressed some perennial issues which are still relevant in modern times. So I just thank Professor Krishnamurti. He always comes out with some new insights, and he has a very deep knowledge of the Sanskrit language, and that gives him added advantage to present his views in a lucid and very clear, transparent manner. So it was really a refreshing experience for me to listen this enlightening lecture. Thank you very much.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Professor Maharaji, for your beautiful observation. Dr. Srinivasan ji, I have one question for you. What is the difference between Purusha and Brahman? Purusha and
Yeah.
Brahman.
Purusha is part of the Brahman. It is the self. Purusha is, in Patanjali Yoga says, special Ishvara or something like that. Brahman is ideologically immutable, indomitable, tasteless, colorless, odorless, formless, and devoid of any attributes. But it has the tendency to have a soldier by the side of him, which is Maya, as very clearly explained by Advaita philosophy, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya Jivo Brahmaivana Apara. So it is only a Mithya. The role played by Maya is very well explained here. So Brahman is also under the influence of Maya for some time, and then the self, which is, we call it as Jiva, the Purusha, is getting, detached from Brahman and finds a place with Prakriti. The nature of Guna, the nature of Purusha is always non-productive and non-produced. And because of this quality, it is attached with the Prakriti, which is entangled there, and the Prakriti, which is already, having so many, equilibriatic status of three gunas, or affected by this equilibrium of the Purusha, and the Purusha then, the gunas then start acting, motivating, coordinating, cooperating, and then fighting with each other, and finally working towards the goal, the purpose, the trilogy of the Sankhya Karika as well as the Sankhya philosophy here, that to liberate Purusha from the Prakriti. So this is what there is a, classical difference between Brahman and the self. Thank you, sir.
Sir, if according to you, Purusha is a part of Brahman, Purusha is a part of Brahman, you said, Purusha is a part of
Yes.
Brahman. Then
Yes.
do not you think that we should have a sense of totality which includes everything? If we admit that
That is why.
that if we admit that Purusha is the part of Brahman, then what is the wrong
Yes.
with Advaita Vedanta, who claims that Brahman is Brahma
No,
Satya, the Brahman is the ultimate truth?
because the Brahma Sutra has not clearly explained the difference between Brahman and the self, the Purusha, or the dualism of Sankhya. It is very authoritative and says this is the reality, you have to accept it. Having failed to, corroborate or explain further, Sri Adi Shankaracharya, am I audible, sir? Hello? Hello?
Audible, sir? Srinivasan ji,
You are audible, sir. You are
You
audible.
are audible, sir.
there are some network problems. Sir, please continue, sir.
Ah, If Brahman is, the Sankhya questions about the veracity of the Advaita philosophy. If Brahman is one being alone, without any distinction, how is the manifoldness of this universe possible or happens? If Brahman is pure consciousness, and if Satkaryavada has to be accepted, how can I create the materialistic world? And thirdly, the Brahma is, you say it is bliss, absolute bliss. Okay, fine. But why did it create the world with a full of sufferings? Is it not possessed with the faults of unfairness, Samkhya, and the lack of compassion, Nairginya? This is what I explained during my talk. So this amply explains about the objection raised by the Sankhya philosophy towards the Vedanta philosophy, or Advaita philosophy, or Brahma Sutra philosophy. There is a distinct difference between these two, and the talk is going on for centuries together. Still, it has been accommodated in the Vedanta series because finally the Sankhyas accepted the supremacy of the Vedanta, Advaita philosophy, and the Brahma Sutra. This is what my perception says.
Yes. Why Sankhya philosophy is famous? Sankhya philosophy is famous for the discriminative knowledge that Purusha and Prakriti, they are distinct to each other. One should not have the ignorance.
Yes.
One should not have the ignorance that Purusha and Prakriti are identical. This is the main feature of our Sankhya philosophy. That Purusha and Prakriti are distinct to each other. Okay? Similarly,
Exactly.
Vedanta system says Jiva Brahmaiva Na Paraha. Jiva Brahmaiva Na Paraha. You see, this appears to be paradoxical. One says that Purusha, Prakriti are distinct to each other. One should understand this. This is the highest knowledge. And another philosophy says Jiva Brahmaiva Na Paraha. This is the highest knowledge. So, how suppose I am a neutral person. I don't follow any philosophy particularly, and I really don't follow. I always advise my students, don't follow your teachers. Don't be a follower in your life. Have your own thought, have your own creative thought. So we are free to criticize everybody, every philosophy. So, so what is the solution? One system says that Jiva Brahmeva Na Paraha. The other system says that we should have the distinctive knowledge, discriminative knowledge that Purusha and Prakriti are different to each other.
Yes.
In Vedanta,
Because,
yes. Sir, please tell.
see, the problem is a dichotomy. It's a never-ending process. It has been amply proved by the Advaita Vedanta through Upadesha Sahasri, wherein Sri Adi Shankaracharya has completely discussed about the Jiva philosophy or Atma or the nature of self in all his stotras. Also in Brahma Sutra. Brahma Sutra is a little bit crude and very difficult to understand unless and until one has mastered Upanishads. It is very difficult to understand the 4 chapters of Brahma Sutra containing about 555 sutras full of philosophy. So I think this particular life is insufficient for me to discuss everything over the Brahma Sutra or Brahma Sutra Bhashya of Sri Adi Shankara. The Sankhya philosophy is far more easier and acceptable because Kapila Maharishi said that life is full of suffering and these sufferings can be exempted or liberated only through knowledge, as rightly what you said. So there is always a difference between these two, but it is left to there are 4 margs, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Ashtanga Yoga. Whatever marg or the path you choose is always the best for the concerned philosopher or the philosopher's research scholars or the students of philosophy, and then let them follow the same thing which would be very helpful. And at a later time, they would understand that Brahman is the ultimate cause, and they will opine with that by the philosophy of Adi Shankaracharya is only a compounder, is not the founder of the Advaita philosophy. It was only Govindapada who invented the Advaita philosophy, which has been cherished and enshrined by the Adi Shankaracharyas with his debates, arguments, counter-arguments, objections, overrulings, and acceptance. Because they accept the Satkaryavada, the causality of Sankhya they accept, but then they differ with the Brahma Vivardhanavada. All these things keep on, pervading the universe for some time, and absolutely it seems there is no end for this kind of dialogue. But whatever the mark they choose, I think that is better to go ahead with that and then reach the ultimatum of Kaivalya Pada. Thank you, sir.
Yes, I am trying to give that answer, and it is already answered by Shankaracharya. I am just giving an example. You are a male person, and you know that you are different from a female counterpart. This is common sense. Suppose you are doing a role of a father to your daughter. At the same time, you can't claim that you are the husband of your daughter, because one person cannot be both husband and a father of the same person. We know this difference in our practical life. So discriminative knowledge is very much significant in our practical life. This is electricity. So if I shall touch it, it will harm me. I may die. Okay. So we have to go through the natural laws. We have to go through the science. Science belongs to this empirical world. We are living in this.
I think, excuse me, sir.
We
Excuse me,
have.
sir.
Yes. Are you saying something?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, same thing. The thing is
Let me
that you are invoking.
let me conclude, sir.
Okay, sir.
We are living in this empirical world. There is no doubt. In this empirical world, duality will remain. Plurality will remain. Plurality means in our family there will be father, mother, brother, sister, so many relations. That is plurality. Plurality means I am out of order. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Plurality means
My
we are perceiving different items around us. Dogs, cats, cows, plants, so many things are there. This is common sense. That is plurality. We have to go through the social laws. We have to go through the laws of the state. We have to go through the laws of religions. That is practical life. Okay. But when you are sleeping, you are nobody. When you are waking, you are everybody. And when you are sleeping, you are nobody. Do you have these two experiences or not? Am I audible?
certainly I too.
So Vedanta says,
Jagrada Sushupti Swapna.
Yes. So the reality that is real in your dream state is not real in the waking state, and that is not real in your susupti state. So from the Paramarthika Satta, there is only Brahman. That is only the unmanifest. But in the waking state, there is science, there is religion, there is society, there is Samkhya, there is Naya, there is all isms. All isms come when we are waking, when we are in the empirical world. All isms are suspended when we are transcendent, when we are asleep, when we are immersed in that ultimate consciousness. So this is the solution. So we can't avoid practical life. and we cannot ignore the reality behind the appearance, and that is the status of a man of wisdom. Am I audible? Hello? Am I audible?